They say never judge a book by its cover. In the world of Steam Early Access, I think the saying should be never judge a game by its screenshots. On the surface, Everdream Village looks like the cozy gamer's ultimate paradise. It's pastel, it's vibrant, and it promises a feature set that sounds too good to be true. Become the mayor, build a town from scratch, and magically transform into animals to save the day. But after sinking hours into this world, I realized that the dream in the title might actually be a fever dream. I found a game that doesn't tell you how to play it, a map that doesn't tell you where to go, and a mayor simulation where I felt less like a leader and more like an unpaid intern doing grunt work in a broken world. Today on JaeTeeGames, we aren't just looking at the cute animals, we are tearing apart the frustrating reality of Everdream Village. Is it worth your money, or is this another early access trap? What's going on everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm JT and I cover the indie games that usually fly under the radar. My goal is simple, I play the buggy, messy and expensive early access launches so you can keep your wallet safe. Speaking of which, if you appreciate honest reviews, don't just hype up a game because it looks cute. Do me a huge favour and hit that subscribe button right now. We are building a community here that values transparency, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, Everdream Village. This game just dropped into early access on Steam, developed by Mooneaters. You might know them from their previous title, Everdream Valley. This game is pitched as a sandbox life sim where you don't just farm, you manage. You are dropped onto an island and told to build a thriving community. It's a massive deviation from the standard grandpa left you a farm trope. Here you are the mayor, you have godlike powers to terraform the land, you have magic. It sounds incredible, and honestly, I wanted to love it. I really wanted to love it. But the further I got into my mayoral duties, the more I realized that this village is built on a foundation of missing features and baffling design choices. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's dissect exactly what happened during my time in Everdream Village. Let's start with the basics. What exactly is Everdream Village trying to be? At its core, this is a genre blender. It's attempting to fuse the heavy terraforming and decoration elements of Animal Crossing with the quest-driven RPG progression of something like My Time at Sandrock. You arrive on an island that is procedurally generated. This means that in theory, no two players will have the exact same map layout. Your job is to turn this wild, overgrown wilderness into a bustling fantasy town. The atmosphere is, well, it's standard. If you ever played any cozy game in the last 5 years, you know the vibe. It's not particularly eerie, nor is it overwhelmingly charming. It sits comfortably in the middle. It's a generic fantasy village. You have your green grass, your blue water, your whimsical little trees. It's pleasant enough to look at, which we'll touch on later, but it doesn't necessarily have a strong identity of its own. It feels safe. But the unique selling point here is your role. You aren't just a farmer, you are the mayor. The game wants you to feel like you're in charge, you decide where the houses go, you decide how the river flows. But here is the first crack in the facade. Being the mayor in Everdream Village feels completely irrelevant. When I think of a city builder or a management sim, I think of delegation, I think of macro management, but here the title of mayor is just a fancy label for the person who does everything. I wasn't sitting in a town hall making policy decisions, I was running around hitting rocks with a pickaxe. I was the one chopping every log. I was the one finding lost items for villagers who were standing 5 feet away from them. It creates this weird dissonance. The game tells me I'm important, but the gameplay loop treats me like the lowest ranking labourer on the island. It's a common trope in these games, sure, we always do the work, but in a game explicitly about building a village for people, the lack of autonomy from the NPCs makes the world feel incredibly static. You aren't a leader, you're a glorified errand runner. So, if you're the errand runner, how does this running actually feel? Let's talk about the gameplay loop. The structure is familiar. You wake up, you have a stamina bar and you have a list of tasks. Gather wood, build a structure, talk to a villager, sleep, repeat. However, Everdream Village tries to spice this up with two major mechanical pillars, minigames and animal transformation. First, let's talk about crafting. In most games like Stardew Valley or Minecraft, you gather 10 wood, you click a button, and poof, you have a chair, instant gratification. Everdream Village decides to take the scenic route. Almost every act of creation involves a minigame. If you want to build a piece of furniture, you aren't just crafting it, You are launched into a 3D jigsaw puzzle where you have to manually slot the pieces of wood together to form the chair. If you want to cook or prepare ingredients, you're playing a chopping minigame. Now, I want to be fair here. The first time I did this, I thought, oh, that's cute. That adds a little weight to the item. I made this. The 50th time I did this, I wanted to scream. Quick question for the comments section. Do you guys actually like crafting minigames, or do you prefer instant crafting? Because for me, this became a massive friction point. It breaks the flow. When I'm in the zone planning my village layout and I need to craft 10 fences, I don't want to solve 10 puzzles. I just want the fences. It turns what should be a quick resource dump into a tedious chore. It doesn't respect the player's time. And in a game that already demands hundreds of hours, those minutes add up. Then we have the flagship feature, magic and transformation. The marketing for this game leans heavily on the fact that you can turn into animals. You can be a dog, a cat, and potentially others as you progress. The idea is that different animals have different senses or abilities, like a dog tracking a scent. But I'm gonna be blunt. It's pointless. Technically, yes, you can run around as a dog, you can bark, it's adorable, but functionally, it offers almost no advantage over just playing as a human. In fact, it's often more cumbersome. I found myself asking, why am I doing this? If I need to find an item, switching to a dog to sniff it out felt clunky. The controls aren't as tight as the human controls, and the scent mechanics are vague. Often I would transform, run around for 30 seconds, get annoyed, transform back and just find the item with my own eyes. It feels like a gimmick. It feels like a feature that was added for the trailer, not for the gameplay. It's easier to do everything yourself as a human. And when the main hook of your game is something players actively avoid using because it's inefficient, you have a design problem. I know that I've been harsh so far, and trust me, we have a lot more critique to get through, but I want to pause and give credit where credit is due. There are reasons why people are interested in this game, and there are things Mooneaters got right. The biggest strength of Everdream Village is undoubtedly its visuals, specifically the environment. When the lighting hits just right, this game is genuinely beautiful. The art style is soft and painterly, the trees sway in the wind, the water has a lovely reflective sheen, and the colour palette is incredibly relaxing. It nails that cozy aesthetic. If you are the type of player who just wants to walk through a digital forest and take screenshots, you will find moments of joy here. The environmental artist did a great job creating a world that looks inviting. I also want to touch on the generation of the island. The island felt cohesive. It didn't feel like a broken mess of algorithms, it felt like a place. While I mentioned earlier that the vibe is standard fantasy, the actual layout generation works well. It offers replayability if the rest of the game were fun enough to replay, because you aren't stuck with the same layout every time. But, and you knew there was a but coming, a pretty coat of paint cannot hide a house that is missing its foundation. This is the part of the video where I need you to listen closely, especially if you have your credit card out. Because while the game looks nice, the experience of playing it right now is riddled with issues that range from annoying to game-breaking. Let's start with the new player experience. The tutorial in Everdream Village is quite frankly bad. A good tutorial holds your hand just enough to teach you the mechanics, then lets go. This game either holds your hand too tight or pushes you off a cliff. There were multiple moments where I was given a task and the game provided absolutely zero direction on how to achieve it. I'm not talking about fun exploration, I'm talking about basic mechanical failure. Go find this item. Okay, where? Is it on the map? No. Is there a hint? No. And can I ask an NPC? No. You are left wandering aimlessly, hoping you stumble upon the trigger to advance the quest. It feels rushed, it feels like the developers know how the game works, so they assumed we would too. That is a fatal flaw in game design. Compounding the bad tutorial is the atrocious navigation. You cannot place custom waypoints on the map. Let me repeat, in an open world-ish game where you have to find specific resources and locations, you cannot set a waypoint. Do you know how frustrating it is to open your map, spot the area you need to go, close the map, walk 10 feet, forget the exact angle, open the map again over and over? It's 2025. This is a standard quality of life feature that has been in games for 2 decades. Its absence here makes the world feel hostile to the player. And then we have the bugs. Now I grant that this is early access, bugs are expected, but there are funny physics bugs and then there are this game isn't finished bugs. I encountered placeholder text in dialogue boxes appearing instead of actual writing. That breaks immersion instantly. It screams that the script wasn't even proofread or fully implemented before they hit the publish button on Steam. I had camera issues where the world would clip underground. I had UI elements overlap so I couldn't click buttons. It lacks polish in a severe way. But the biggest deal breaker for me, the thing that made me want to quit, there are no interiors. You spend all this time gathering resources, you endure the jigsaw puzzle minigames, you build a house, and you can't go inside. The buildings are currently just props. You place them down to tick a box, but there is no life inside them. In a life sim. The entire genre is built on the fantasy of decorating your home and visiting your neighbors. When you realize that the village you are building is just a collection of empty cardboard cutouts, the motivation to keep playing evaporates. Why am I working so hard to build a ghost town? Finally, the economy and grind balance is off. Because you have to do everything yourself and because the tools are slow and the minigames are tedious, the progression feels like a slog. You work hard for very little reward. When you combine the bad tutorial, the lack of navigation, the empty buildings and the bugs, the beautiful trees just aren't enough to keep you there. This brings us to the price. Right now, Everdream Village is asking for a price tag that, in my opinion, assumes the game is much further along than it is. It's overpriced, plain and simple. If this were a $10 tech demo, I might be more forgiving, but they are charging a premium for an experience that is barely functional in some areas and completely missing in others. You are not paying for a game, you are paying for a promise, and based on the current state of the code, that is a risky investment. So here is the verdict. Everdream Village has potential, the art team deserves a raise, and the concept of mixing terraforming with RPG requests is solid. But potential doesn't make a game fun to play today. Right now, the game suffers from a lack of direction, baffling design choices like the lack of map waypoints, a gimmick-heavy animal mechanic that isn't fun to use, and a world that feels empty due to missing interiors. It feels rushed, it feels like it needed another 6 months in the oven before even hitting early access. My advice? Do not buy this yet. Keep it on your wishlist if you like the art style, check back in 6 months or a year, let the developers patch in the interiors, fix the tutorial, and squash the bugs. But do not spend your money on this expecting a complete or satisfying experience right now. If you want to play a farming sim that actually respects your time, I have a whole playlist of recommendations on the channel, so go and check those out instead. And if this review saved you some money, please hit that like button. It really helps the video spread to other gamers who might be on the fence, and make sure you are subscribed with the notification bell turned on. I play a lot of these games so you don't have to, and you don't want to miss the next one. I'm JT, this is JaeTeeGames, and I'll see you in the next one.